I tore down a rotting shed in my backyard. I turned it into this. What surprised me the most isn't what it looks like. It's what happens when I plug it in. When I decided to start this build in the middle of winter, I knew I'd need to do my best to control the temperature. Anything under 70 degrees Fahrenheit would slow the epoxy curing process, and anything under 60 could potentially prevent it entirely. So I built an insulated hot box, like you do. The concept for this build is basically barnwood and black epoxy. I don't have a barn, but I did recently dismantle a shed that's been in my backyard for 30 years, so I'll make do. Unlike my previous epoxy build, this one will be all larger pieces of base and edge grain wood with broken and splintered ends peeking through the black epoxy. You don't get to see me color the epoxy because I didn't film it, but you can watch me pour it. Congratulations on your good fortune. There's a wire shelf rack and 2 heating pads under my molds. 5 days later, the fun resumes as I remove what will soon become my neck and body blanks from their wood and plastic cocoon. Like a beautiful butterfly, but manly. The jagged peaks of lumber protruding from the top of my body blank make it too tall to fit in my router sled. So I whittle it down with a mallet and chisel. Flattening the slab is one of the more rewarding operations on a build like this. I have an idea of what I want the blank to look like, but this process is how it ultimately reveals itself in reality. One of the more irritating aspects of working with wood and epoxy is the fact that the wood is porous and it holds in a lot of air. And this air continues to escape well into the curing process. So there's no avoiding the inevitable bubbles. I just fill them as they appear. This is what my shop looks like while I'm asleep. Now it's time to mill the neck blank and see what it looks like in there. Like the body blank, I don't know if it's gonna turn out super cool or kinda ugly. We can find out together. But not yet. The epoxy I used to fill the bubbles on the body blank has fully cured, and I want to sand on it for an eternity real quick. I fantasize about one day being incredibly wealthy and hiring a sanding assistant to help with this stuff. One day. I want to make this a Les Paul style guitar, but I don't want to buy a Les Paul style template. So I'll just trace the Les Paul style guitar body that I have laying around from a video you've surely already seen by now. Surely you have. Why wouldn't you want to help me and my channel by watching all of my many videos over and over again? Seriously, why? Anyway, now I need to cut away everything that doesn't look like a very, very sexy guitar on my bandsaw. I get close to my line, but not so close that I risk crossing it. I'd rather leave too much than take too much. Taking off a little more later is way easier than putting some back on. Besides, it's literally the whole reason I bought this super cool oscillating belt sander. I'll never live without one again. I think I spent like $200 on the thing, and I know beyond any shadow of a doubt that I've gotten 10 times that much joy out of owning it. I don't think you can put a price tag on joy, really. Can you? You probably shouldn't. It's probably illegal. Anyway, I put a nice round over on the edges. It'll have the profile of like a Les Paul Jr. or a Special. Give it a quick sanding, if you can believe that. And with that, the time has come to start building the neck. I have a beautifully figured piece of maple from the scrap pile to use as my fretboard. I just need to mill it down to the proper dimensions. I use my jointer to give my surfaces a perfect fit when I glue them up. That's another tool upon which I've probably grown too dependent. I cut my truss rod channel with my palm router using my purpose-built jig. I take a couple light passes to sneak up on just the right fit. Once it's perfect, I tape off the channel to keep glue off the truss rod and install my maple fretboard. I use about as many clamps as I can fit on it to get even clamping pressure along the entire joint. The following day, I can pull the clamps and reveal what is now basically one piece. Seeing it from these angles, I probably could have fit more clamps on there. Oh well, we live, we learn. I trim all but about 1/8 of an inch off both sides of the neck to make light work for my palm router. Since I'm making this neck a bit wider than what I normally do, I don't have a template for these dimensions, so I'm just using a straight edge piece of 1/4 inch MDF. I designed an elegantly simple headstock. I want the materials on this build to do most of the talking. I went with a 3x3 tuner configuration, in keeping with the Les Paul aesthetic, just generally speaking. I seriously considered a 6 inline design, just to be different, but it didn't look right to me. I think Gibson got this one right in the first place. Since this neck is unique in its dimensions, I needed to create a router template specifically for it to cut my neck pocket. So I lined everything up perfectly, clamped it in place, and built an MDF template around the neck. I covered the body in tape and glued my template to the tape. There was a bit of trial and error, but in the end it let me have my way. As always, I hogged out the bulk of the waste with a large Forstner bit and finished the cut with my router. Anytime you're removing significant material with a router, you want to take multiple light passes rather than one heavy cut. I drill holes for the neck bolts, first through the neck pocket, and then I use those holes for locating the holes on the neck. Using the flat end of my level as a guide, I cut my fret slots. With my drill press, I drill all the holes for my fret markers. I set my depth stop so I can't drill through my fretboard and into the truss rod. I put a drop of PVA glue in each hole and stuff an oak dowel into it, and cut it off flush with my flush cut saw. I repeat those steps until all of my holes have a flush cut dowel stuffed into them. Why did I say it like that? Moving on. I mark up my fretboard with pencil and use my 9.5 inch radius block to radius the board. I only use pressure going in one direction, or the block will wear more material in the middle than on the ends. Once the pencil's all gone, I use my saw to clear the fret slots. Shaping the neck used to stress me out. It takes a lot of work to get to this point, and I always felt like the further along I got, the higher the stakes would become. It's a multiple days process, so it can seem like you have a lot to lose. Now I think it might be my favorite part. I can almost turn my brain off to do it. It's very zen. I use a square to draw a line exactly perpendicular to the center line of the guitar at the scale length from the nut, in this case 25.5 inches. That's where I line up the center of my saddle for the high E string when it's about 1/5 of the way from the end of its travel. I use dental floss to line up the E strings from their saddles to their slots on the nut. I line up the center lines of the bridge with that of both pickup rings. I then mark my screw holes for the pickup rings. That's how I determine where to route these cavities so everything lines up properly when assembled. The nut I use to locate the bridge is not tall enough, so I'm cutting and shaping one from a black tusk blank. I'm using steel wool dissolved in vinegar to re-age this wood. After milling it, it looks almost new, and I want it to look like barn wood. This solution is the solution. Once the wood is aged, I give it several coats of wipe-on poly. I give it a light sanding and about 4 to 6 hours between coats. I put a 9-inch radius on my fret wire, so it's just slightly tighter than that of the fretboard. I put a few drops of CA glue in the fret slot and tap in the fret. Then I firmly seat the fret with my press. I repeat this process another 21 times before using my fret end snippers to cut the frets flush with the board. I use my fret end filing block to file off the razor sharp ends. I had almost no leveling and just a little crowning, but here's just a ton of polishing if that helps. I decided to go with antique bronze hardware on this guitar, and I wanted to use as much of it as I could get my hands on. And I found like 3 different dealers selling a bronze Tele control panel. It parks a big chunk of bronze on the front, and I think it looks cool. But I got behind schedule on this build, and I needed the parts fast, so I ordered from all 3 dealers, and planned to use the first ones that showed up. Well, as my luck often goes, all the dealers must have been drop shipping from East Asia, so none of them were coming on time. So I decided to try and do my own antique bronze finish. I had a spare black panel laying around, so I sanded it down and painted it. I already had the bronze knobs and switch button delivered. I just needed the plate. As usual, I shielded all the cavities with copper tape, the stuff with conductive adhesive so no soldering necessary. I install the neck for hopefully the last time, as this is final assembly. I drill a hole for the ground wire for the bridge. I connect the shielding tape solidly to ground and scuff up the back of the bridge before applying more copper tape there. I install the bridge permanently. That's right, it's the last time. I don't show every time, but usually by the time a guitar is finally assembled, everything's been put on and taken back off like 5 times. Always nice when you know you're only doing it once more. These locking tuners haven't been back in these holes since the wipe-on poly, so some rat tail filing is necessary. I'm kinda glad I was forced to buy 3 sets of this bronze hardware. I love how it looks, and it was a nice change from chrome or black. They feel well made and very solid. You never know what you're gonna get when you order a new product for the first time, and you're every bit as likely to receive junk, so it's a pleasant surprise when you get higher quality than what you were expecting. I'm moderately familiar with this brand, and every time I buy from them I gain a little more trust, so hopefully they don't get bought by a marauding band of venture capitalists. I'm conditioning this maple fretboard with mineral oil. The figure the oil brings out is kind of outstanding. I can't believe it was in the scrap pile. I'm using a pre-wired harness and controls, so I only need to solder the pickup leads and output jack. I ordered all the extraneous hardware like jack plate, knobs, strap buttons, etc. from various places, so it's kind of wild how well it all goes together. If you guys enjoy watching me do this kind of thing, it'd be amazing if you'd like, subscribe, comment, and share. It's free for you and it really helps me a lot. Thanks in advance. I put the strings on so I can line all the pickup pole pieces up with the strings perfectly before I screw the rings in permanently. And finally, the bronze strap lock buttons are the finishing touch. I hope you had as much fun watching this as I had making it. Thanks for watching.